Very pleased to be joined here at Blogging the Boys by the one and only, the dashing, the debonair, internationally famous. You know him, you love him. You likely had him on a fantasy team at one point in time. It is Clemson running backs coach and run game coordinator. I'm always fascinated by that title. CJ Spiller, coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Man, thank you for having me, RJ. Man, just exciting time right now for all the new draftees that just entered the NFL, especially the guys that's coming from Clemson. So just happy to see those guys fulfill a dream come true for them. And then on the other hand, out here recruiting, trying to find some new Clemson Tigers that's gonna help us win some games.
You know, I've been fortunate to have conversations like this with a lot of people, and in the interactions you and I had leading up to this, I was just so taken away. You seem to love your job more than most, and you got to love football to do what you do. I mean, you just seem to be really infected with the love for the game and love for teaching and love for helping people grow and achieve dreams and things like that. It's very, very cool to see, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny that you say that because like we talked about, earlier, I'm getting ready to, give a speech to an 8th grade, graduation here in a couple of weeks. And one of the closing remarks is going to be my favorite Bible verse, which is Luke 12:48, to whom much is given and much is required. And to me, I always tell people that coaching is a calling. Like this has to be a calling for your on your life, because there are going to be some long days and the year's going to go by super fast. But also you're going to have a chance to be entrusted with a lot of young men's lives. And, I know I'm going to be held accountable for that one day to my maker, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I don't take that lightly, but also I have a good time. I love getting out, meeting new people, meeting new coaches and things like that. So to me, it's just all about what's your perspective and how do you look at it. And so I just try to keep a lot of joy in it.
Not in the exact same way as Jesus, obviously, but a fisher of men, and that's what we're called to be. And it sounds like you've let down your nets. They don't all get filled up the way Paul's did originally, but they've got to be put down. That's a step. I covered the Super Bowl this past year, and I tweeted that night about one of the most impactful sermons I ever heard in my life, and it was about doing the possible in life. And you've got to come up here, and God will meet you there, but you can't just stay down here. You've got to do your part so that God can take care of the impossible. And it sounds like I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like that is a big mantra in your own life.
Yes, it truly is. Like you say, you have to do your part. God has his plans already set for our lives, and for us, we just have to trust those plans, but we also know that we have to put in the work, and there's going to be it's going to be good days, it's going to be bad days. But if you sacrifice and you have that strong work ethic foundation and that commitment and dedication, I mean, you can persevere through anything, and that's the beauty of life, is that you're always going to be faced with a challenge, and it's all about how do you handle that challenge and keep pushing forward. And it's just all about, to me, just one step at a time, one day at a time.
That's really, really well said. And I would love to do a Bible study with you. We're not here for that. Maybe we set that up, later on down the road. We're here today to talk about somebody who you coached, and if my research is correct, somebody who was a part of maybe your beginning as a staffer at Clemson in newest Dallas Cowboys running back Phil Mafa. Phil is, I think the book on him that everybody sees is big thundering back, like just kind of big physical dude. But I know there's more to him, and we're so excited to learn what it is about him that you saw, that you helped grow, that you helped cultivate, and that he's hopefully going to bring to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, me and Phil journey started off this the same year that I took over as the running back coach. Obviously, I didn't be a part of their recruiting process because I got on board at Clemson in 2020. He was pretty much already committed to Clemson, but in 2021, when he came in, it's kind of when I got going. And man, just to see the transformation that he had from his freshman year all the way to his senior year, it was really a beauty thing to watch, honestly. And like you say, people know him as this thundering back and big guy, but I tell people all the time, Phil, in my personal opinion, probably had some of the best hands on the team to be the size that he is, and he has some of the softest feet that you can have as a big guy. And he's faster than what people really think he is. He had some big runs throughout his whole career, and I know that's going to carry over. But the thing that people want to love about Phil is when they get to know him and get to know him for who he is, to know him who he is as a person. And he's just a very quiet person, very reserved, but very well mannered, respected young man. Like he is a yes sir, no sir. Very got this. He just has this personality that's just you just want to gravitate towards. Like that's the best way to describe Phil. Like that's just his personality, this aura that when he walks in the room and you just wanna hang out with this dude because like this like you done covered the league. Like, man, this is a good dude. Like I just want to go hang out with this dude. He's a good dude, and like that's what Phil Mafah is.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned it. In the reality is some players in the NFL act a little bit differently, but some are just awesome dudes, and
Yeah,
that can be the case for top of the line, bottom of the roster, whatever the case may be. And it's very cool that here Phil is playing big time college football at Clemson, getting coached by CJ Spiller, and just keeping that same metronome beat about himself, and that's hard to do. Obviously, playing for the Cowboys, as you're well aware, comes with a little bit of a different kind of stage and attention, and it
right.
seems like he might be really built for that in a way that not everybody is.
Yeah, and he understands that. And like you say, just knowing the Cowboys and what Mr. Jones done built over there within that organization and what that star mean to not just that organization but to so many people across the world. Quite honestly, he's built for that. He's like I say, he's well spoken. He's great to get to know. He's soft spoken, and he doesn't bring uh, any negativity, I would say, to an organization. Like I didn't have any issues with him here at Clemson. Like I knew, like if I had issue, I feel like it was like that was something that was just out of the blue, but just never
Right.
had it. But that's just how he carried himself. Like he carried himself with the utmost respect, and I think a lot had to do with his upbringing and how his parents raised him. And so, man, he people in that building in that community is going to fall in love with him.
You said out of the blue, a bit of an ironic twist, given the way y'all season ended, is that
Yeah,
Phil was drafted alongside Jaden Blue, and sometimes that's just the way it goes. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I know it's kind of lazy for people to say thunder and lightning, and that's kind of if you don't know anything about Jaden or Phil, maybe that is your perspective. And everybody hopes when two players are drafted like this that they'll be kind of a part of a group for a long time. And my initial guess, and very lazy on my part, I recognize this, was kind of what you and Fred Jackson offered in Buffalo. Not
yeah.
that Fred was this, bulldozer, Mike Tolbert type dude, but
Right.
you were clearly, and you can tell Fred, I said this, the faster one, the quicker one. And so
Yeah,
I don't
Fred.
know. Yeah, do you see that type of I don't want to call it yin and yang, but relationship or opportunity for them to kind of work together? I know you
Yeah.
didn't coach Jaden, but just based on your
Yeah,
perspective.
I mean, obviously having a chance to watch Jaden up and close in our playoff game this past year, playing against Texas, obviously, you the first thing you notice just the speed that he has and the way that he can just take it the distance anywhere on the field. And so that's obviously the great to have. And then obviously you have Phil, who's gonna come in and he'll, gonna pound you, pound you, pound you, pound you, pound you. And then also you mess around, you fall asleep, and he's running away from people. So I think to me that's a great comparison between the two. I would probably take it a step further and say probably like the two kids that's up in Detroit with Sonic. I think they call it some Sonic and Boom. And so I think that's kind of how it is, and that's kind of where the NFL kind of went towards is that two back system. And so those two guys are great. The biggest thing for them, my advice would be to them is, man, just feed off each other.
Right.
Don't let jealousy try to creep up amongst each other, man. Go in it with an open mind and really helping each other and really set some goals that y'all want to accomplish individually and then as a tandem, because I think that is a great tandem to have when you can have a change of pace type guys.
You in talking about Phil's game, I think people hear the phrase soft hands a lot, and that
Mhm.
everyone kind of understands it. But you talked about his soft feet. I'm curious if you can kind of explain the value of that. Just because again, when you see him run, you don't the word soft doesn't come to mind. You know what I'm saying? Especially
Right.
lower body. Can you kind of walk us through what that means and how it's valuable?
When I mention soft feet, I'm talking about just his agility, the way that he can just make a jump cut for his size.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You normally see really good soft feet like the Barry Sanders, the Ward Duns of the world. But for his size, the way he can get in and out of cuts, the way he can sink his hips, and so that's what I mean by when I say he has really good soft feet. just because of the stuff that he had been able to do. And then it was, I want to say it was against Notre Dame the year we played him, and he squeezed between. He got between a gap that I didn't think literally nobody could ever probably get through. So those are like kind of like some of the illustrations when I mean like soft feet. Like for him to be able to squeeze in between that gap to beat 230 pounds, like it was probably one of the most impressive runs I'd have probably ever seen him have.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
good ones.
It is very cool that your journeys have run in parallel so far at Clemson
Mhm.
specifically. I have to imagine it's probably a little bit weird to, go on a recruiting trip and no Phil's not back there. You know what I mean? Like that's got to be just a different feel. That's part of life. So relative, and I know you mentioned you weren't part of the recruiting trip or the recruiting process for Phil at Clemson specifically, but from your time starting together, what do you think has changed the most? Something that maybe you saw in him that you didn't think he was going to be able to achieve, or something that you thought was really good that just became really great because you've seen his whole career in college.
Yeah, well, when we first started off together, I didn't think that the kid was going to ever talk because I mean he just has this very quiet reserve, but he listens. He's a great listener. That's one thing I would say about Phil. Like he's a great listener, but he's not going to come off a guy that's going to be a man of many words. But you kind of see the evolve of how he kind of started changing. The more and more he kind of got into his college career, and then he can't start become this more vocal leader. And so that was for me. That was awesome to see him kind of come up out of his shell a little bit because at the beginning I'm like, this kid probably ain't gonna say 50 words the entire time he's here at Clemson. But to see how he just his transformation from that aspect, it truly was something special to watch. And then just like I said, just the more you're around him, the more you have a greater appreciation for who he is as an individual. And I try to pay close attention to every little thing that these guys do in my room, not just on the football field, but how are they treating people in the building, and just to see everybody be consistent from his freshman year all the way to his senior year, of just how appreciative he was. It wasn't out of the blue for Phil just to go tell somebody he appreciated it. Like that was a norm for him to do stuff like that. And I always told him, man, you just don't understand how much that means to that person and how far, like how long they're gonna remember you for that. And so it was just those little things like that that I'm definitely gonna miss about him.
That's I mean, if you're gonna miss him, I mean that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to leave an impact and leave a legacy. And I know we talked about Jaden. I don't know how much you've seen about the Cowboys' entire draft class. And I know this isn't rare, but they're really focused on leaders and team captains and players like you're describing Phil to be. And it seems like he's the kind of guy you can build a culture around.
Yeah, I believe wholeheartedly he's a guy that you can build a culture around. That he can have that C on his chest.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because of the way that he carry himself, the way that he care about his teammates. I mean, he did so much, especially this past year for us having to be what we call like the alpha dog in the running back room. But just to see the way that he kind of took those younger guys up under his wings and kind of just helped them on their path to as well was affectionate to see. And then just to see the respect that he has amongst his teammates. I mean, it was a clear cut that Phil was our leader, our captain of our team. And that says a lot because this is a guy that like I say, he's not a man of many words. But when he did speak, everybody had their ears up because they know that it meant a lot to him. And so he's definitely a guy that I can definitely see one day having a C on his jersey.
That's very cool. My last Phil one, and then I have a CJ Spiller one. You talked about the play against Notre Dame, about how he kind of surprised you. If you had to send Cowboys fans on YouTube, and if there was one Phil play that perfectly described his Clemson career, because it sounds like the Notre Dame one isn't like that. That was amazing, but maybe
Yes.
isn't like classic Phil. What
Yes.
what is the play that you're like, oh, like if that was the cover, like someday he's getting in the Hall of Fame and they're playing like what is the highlight that has to play from his time with the Tigers?
Oh man, that's a tough one. That's because it's two of them and they happened both this year. And I would say the run that he had against Florida State when he ran the safety over. And I picked that play because it it shows the toughness that he
Right.
had at his time here at Clemson. And then to do it again, I want to say a week or two later against Wake Forest, the same scenario, running the kid over. Like, it showed his toughness and his determination to run someone over and to keep going. And I think that kind of right there embodied his football career at Clemson, the toughness that he had to overcome. Because, like I said, I wasn't involved with the recruitment, but I'm pretty sure coming in as a freshman with Will Shipley, I'm pretty sure they probably had talks about being that thunder and lightning type ordeal. And when you don't play as much your freshman year, you got to have some type of tough skin to push through. And then obviously this past year, to deal with what he had to deal with, you got to have some type of toughness to push through. So that's why I picked those two clips, because those two clips detail his football career here at Clemson, and who he is as a person that's able to push through no matter what the challenge is that lies ahead in front of him.
That's a very cool answer, and it's a hard thing to answer. And you gave us two plays, so well done, Coach. I mentioned I had a CJ Spiller one. I obviously covered the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah. So in 2015, the Cowboys had Tony Romo had been hurt in week 2, and we were clinging on to hope, Coach. We were like, okay, we just got to get to a point where Romo's back, and there's some tough games coming up. We got to go to New Orleans. It's a Sunday night game. Let's see if we can survive. And so we're in this thing, and it's just like seriously this war. And we're containing the mighty Drew Brees. It goes to overtime, and then CJ Spiller just ruins the week. I mean, just like ruins the week like early on. I mean, I had forgotten how soon this was. You walked into the end zone with 14:47 on the clock in overtime. I mean, just like gave us no chance at all. This was before the NFL got crazy with the overtime rules, where you don't even know when the game ends anymore. Right. What is your problem, Coach? Like, and what do you remember about that play? Like, it was so weird how fast overtime was over.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what happens when you get to play alongside like a Hall of Famer like Drew Brees, and we kind of just got in this empty set, and obviously, he's scanning the field, and he's seeing that they're in a man coverage, and they having look like they was having some communication issues. I can see the same thing that's going on as well, and my biggest thing was the catch the ball. Catch the ball. That was my only concern. Hey, finish the catch and go. And naive as I am, I didn't even know it was a walk-off game winner.
Right.
Like, just scored. I'm, finna get ready to go back to the sideline. Had I knew that it was a walk-off game winner, I probably would have just ran in the tunnel. Like I forgot who done it back in the day. I just would have just kept running like my man Forrest Gump. And so I just remember, man, just the excitement on the sideline, everybody going crazy. And so it was a fun time. And, it was for me, it was honestly, it was like a redeemer, because I don't know if you remember when I was with the Bills and we came to Dallas, and they split me out wide, and we had to practice this play literally all week. And we knew, okay, once I went in motion, that they was going to send the backer out there, and it was going to be man to man. And, Ron Fitzpatrick always said, hey, if a backer go out there with you, I'm throwing you the ball. And for some reason, I don't know if my feet just got tangled up and I just fell down. And that was probably one of the most embarrassing things. And so that always stuck in the back of my head, believe it or not. And so when this moment presented itself, I was like, I'm about to redeem myself from what happened years ago up over in Dallas Stadium. And
I do remember this. That game that you're talking about was in 2011. So that was 4 years. So you had to sit on this for 4 years, before you got your revenge.
You don't get a chance to play the Cowboys that often. I didn't anyway. And so I think I only played them twice in my career.
Right.
So, so I sat on that for 4 years.
It was it was devastating. Again, I told you the context because Romo had gotten hurt, it was this like, if we can just squeak out a few, you know what I mean, like, and obviously at the time the Saints were this amazing team, and it was Drew Brees, like, and they had CJ Spiller. It was like, oh my gosh, to even be in overtime with Brandon Whedon felt like, no offense to Brandon, felt like a victory in and of itself. So it felt like, man, let's just steal it right now. And then when I saw that I think it was Damian Wilson on you, so it's like, oh man, CJ Spiller on a linebacker, like this isn't.
It was just. To me, it was one of my probably easiest plays, that because I'm always known for the wheel route, something that I had ran a million times in my college career, and so in that specific play was a wheel route when he checked it, And so that was like, okay, I'm back in form. I'm back in Clemson. It's just all about this finishing. And so, and once I seen him go up underneath, I said he has no chance at all.
It's funny you say that. Like it's on the subject of Clemson and college football. Like it was the perfect like NCAA college football wheel route play. Like that's literally exact. Like we've all done that play, and everyone thinks like this would never work in real life. And then CJ Spiller does it to the Cowboys, and again, just I had a really bad week that week, Coach. So.
Man, my apologies for ruining the Cowboys that weekend, but I can tell you what, the Who Dat Nation was pretty excited that whole weekend. I can tell you that.
Coach, this has been so awesome. You kind of touched on this at the beginning. My last question has nothing to do with football, has everything to do with life. You mentioned your favorite scripture, a favorite Bible study. I'm almost done. My wife and I have been in the middle of one. I'm looking for a new one. So if you have a recommendation, very interested, another Bible study to kind of dive into.
Well, I know somebody. I don't have none off the top of my head, but if I get one, I definitely. Obviously, we have our contact information. I'll shoot you one, and I'm always about getting to know our Lord and Savior Christ even better, and so that's awesome that you and your wife is going through that and finishing up. That's pretty sweet, man. And to me, that's what it's all about, is getting to know Him better, and also on y'all end, y'all getting to know each other better. I'm getting ready to celebrate 5 years of my own marriage here in a couple of weeks, and so it's been a great joy. But He's been at the head of it every step of the way.
That's very awesome. I'll send you the one we're working on. It's technically a women's study.
Yeah.
So it's Priscilla Shire, who's Dr. Evans' daughter. And so every now and then in the video, she's like, come on, ladies. And you just got to kind of, you got to kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
But it's the information is well worth it. So
that's awesome.
Coach CJ Spiller, thank you so much for the time. God bless you on the road. And make sure to eat the best spots. I know you do on all the recruiting trips.
Oh man, I thank you so much, man. And y'all gonna enjoy Phil Mafah. I can promise you that y'all gonna get to know that kid and fall in love with him.